All right. So, look at there. Did you do that? Who did that?
You did. Look at that. Do we have audio happening here?
Now, how do I even tell that?
I don't know. Let's ask Elliot and Bo if they can hear us here. They're on the chat. As Dave pours a glass of wine, he's just coming in hot through the door right now.
I love it. I love it.
Hopefully, we avoid the echo. How we?
Oh, Elliot hears us. What's up, Elliot?
All right.
Oh, Bo says the audio is good.
Good.
All right, we're just chatting it up right now, fellas, and pouring wine.
Oh, Dave, what do we have here? We'll talk about that.
Oh, yeah, talk about it.
Love it.
So I get paid to produce in wine, guys. So this is like my favorite job I've ever had.
High stress here. High stress here in the fire.
That's all we can afford.
So, I missed last night's game other than listening to it on the radio and tried to catch some highlights, but I was playing soccer myself, so.
Well,
How'd the game go?
that's probably better.
We lost by 1 point.
Yeah. All right.
But we're 2-1 on the season, so
Okay.
better than I expect for old man soccer. Oh, hey, we're going to look at each other this way.
Oh, let me see. Let's see. There's 2. And unfortunately, there's a camera.
Cheers.
For me this time.
Cheers.
Gentlemen. Cheers.
Carmen, I have a camera for Carmen, too. She's going
know.
to say hi to the listeners.
Hello, everybody.
Carmen's the podcast favorite.
I know.
Already, people are like,
We're slow.
you need to get off and let Carmen talk more.
We do.
Well, that's what happens when you have both your children listen in and log in. That's their opinion.
Oh, is that what it is?
Carmen was saying Duke is playing right now against USC.
UCLA.
UCLA.
Yeah, 2 versus 3.
Duke doesn't even have a football team. I'm just kidding.
We don't, which is why I don't care,
Yeah,
which is why go Duke women's soccer.
North Carolina's ranked number 1, right?
How did that happen? I don't
My
know.
wife says back where we belong.
Oh, jeez.
They started out number 10, now they're number 1.
Yeah, it made no sense. Like, everyone in front of them
And
kept
Anson
winning.
Durant is still alive, which is amazing.
He's like in his 40th-something year
Yeah.
coaching? Good grief.
He's got to be 150.
Dave, you ready to go? Just
I'm always ready, born ready.
coming off the street.
Whoa. Do we have the highlight packages ready to roll?
Am I okay now? All right, there we go. I'm not going to mess
Mikey
with
Dobbs, do we have the highlight
We
packages
do.
ready
We
to
sure
roll?
do. So,
We
okay.
got some clips
Uh-oh.
in case we want to go there.
Let's get this thing going.
All right.
You ready to go, Dave? Carmen?
Born ready.
All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of ATL on Fire. And we're hopefully, it sounds like we're broadcasting live now. We'll post this on YouTube later, a little bit edited. Try to edit these into smaller little bites as well. But
Segments, if you will.
One thing I have been doing is
Thematic segments.
on the full video, I'm doing this thing called chapters on YouTube, and so you can kind of bookmark the different topics that we go through. So I'm spending the time at least doing that, even if I don't do separate videos. So
Very nice.
we know the YouTube audience typically likes smaller video, so I'm trying to break that up into 10-minute parts as well. But
Okay.
and we've got a 2-game recap, and we have to talk about last night's very tough loss against Philadelphia.
Oof.
And the comeback win against DC United, the bottom of the table team that we still had to struggle to get the win against.
What? You mean we didn't wipe them off the face of the earth?
No.
Oh,
So, Dave,
that's not a good sign.
like I said, the DC United game I watched on replay, but I was in that fishing tournament, believe it or not.
Yeah,
on
did
Sunday.
you win?
We did not. We did not win. But, it was like a checklist, bucket list thing up on Lake Hartwell.
How many fish did you catch?
Caught about 4, but none were big enough to weigh, and probably missed about 5 or 6 that came off the line. Fishing story, I guess. But
Kind of like Atlanta United.
yeah, it sounded like.
Only caught a couple of small ones. Oh.
So thank you for coming in hot and bringing some red
Yes.
red wine. What are we drinking?
We're drinking a Hess Select from California. It's a Cabernet Sauvignon from the North Coast.
Oh, that's really good. I've had that before. Mm-hmm. That's delicious.
It's pretty widely available. It's always consistently good.
Yeah. Carmen, what do you think?
Very, very good. Excellent.
All right.
All right. She's getting paid.
I should
paid
say
well
that
wine.
two things happened. So we harvested our third vintage. We opened the first bottle of the second vintage, which was surprisingly delicious. And the third vintage is now fermenting away. We're going to have an increased production this year at the Emerald Hill Winery from 2 cases to 4 cases.
Yeah. So listeners, if you're not aware, Dave started making his own wine with one of our friends, 2 years ago, and you're in your second.
No, so it takes 3 years to get a grape, right?
Yeah.
So, and we actually didn't make our first wine until the 4th year. So we're at 7 years.
And I have had a glass of this wine before, and I was absolutely shocked that it wasn't just good, it was very good, and that was pretty amazing. But I guess, kind of having a chemistry background helps, and being able to make your own yeast and things like that, whatever,
It does help.
Help. So, Dave, what do you want to get into with Atlanta United?
Nothing.
It's really tough. I appreciate everybody tuning in.
Yeah, you got to be a real diehard to still be hanging on right now.
Yeah.
I'm actually, to be honest, maybe I don't want to shouldn't start the podcast this way, but I'm enjoying watching the games as what not to do in coaching.
Yeah,
I'm learning a lot. I'm trying to,
Yeah, and you were saying Alexi Lalas even got a dig in that said, you shouldn't be learning on the job. You shouldn't have a coach that's learning on the job. Yes. That's a pretty harsh dig, and
that's what he said in the pregame.
And actually, pretty good commentary from Alexi Lalas, which is rare.
I don't think, and I think we'll get into ultimately what I'm really concerned about with Pineda later, but I don't think it's so much that he's learning on the job. It's just that I don't think that he knows how to go about it, and I'll get what I mean that later.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, I think even just the average person watching what he's been doing, just to your point, he doesn't know how to go about it. I mean, in the last 2-3 games are do or die games.
Yep.
And I spoke about it before when it was, who did we play before DC and we ended up losing?
The Crew.
The Crew, and we didn't start Joseph Martinez.
Right.
And, again, it's overthinking it, right? Like, you start your star player. You start the guy who is the heart of the franchise in those big moments.
Yep.
And, you put it on him, and you at least give him a chance as somebody who's given his heart to the, regardless what I think of, Joseph's future and, has he lost a step? You got to believe, unless there's something wrong with his knee, that he should be in there playing in these games to,
According to the commentators in the last game, in order to try and prove to Pineda that he's really ready to go, he's been volunteering and doing 2-a-days.
Yeah. So
really?
Yeah.
It's just more evidence to your point. Like, Pineda doesn't get it. He thinks he's already as his first year coach, like a master of like overthinking, Cisneros, and I'll bring in Martinez. Or, you know what, I'm sticking to my guns with Rocco as the keeper who is, just continuing to let in goals. And as we get into that,
Carmen, do we have an explosion?
I can.
Yeah, there you go.
and I feel bad for the kid because like this was his opportunity to prove everybody wrong, including the believers out there that you can be 5'10" and be a MLS goalkeeper, which your trivia the other night basically statistically says it's impossible to be a goalkeeper unless you're over 6'2". I mean, that's
right.
So the fact that
Vélez, where he came from, is basically leading Argentina, and there's a reason they let him go.
Yeah. You know the Mexican goalkeeper I was talking about that was short and successful wasn't
Jorge Campos.
Campos is who I was thinking of. He's relatively short, right? Like
He was real short.
Yeah, so that's who I was thinking of in the last podcast, not Ochoa.
Not Ochoa. Yeah, he's the current goalkeeper who's big. Yeah.
Okay,
I got you. That makes more sense.
Right.
Yeah,
but
Campos
I was going to say,
like
my point, and it's a different generation too when he was playing, right? The game,
and he was still, in my opinion, easy to score. I always loved the U.S.-Mexico games when he was in goal for Mexico because I was like, what are they thinking putting that guy in goal?
So let's start with what? You want to talk about DC United?
Yeah, let's start at the very beginning.
Do you want to go through some highlights? Where do you want to begin?
Yeah, I mean, we can just go through it.
This was a home game too at the Benz.
Yes.
And did you make it, or who all went to use our
No,
seats?
I couldn't go because I was coming back from my son had a tournament in Birmingham, which they won.
Nice.
Won the whole thing, yeah.
Excellent.
18 goals for, 1 against.
Wow.
Got it done.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
At least you're watching some good soccer.
Yeah, they scored they scored some amazing goals actually. Relentless. I mean, they've got some real attacking options, but yeah. And because they have so many attacking options, their back four just sits at home. Anyway. So good on GSA, Coach Wayne, right? He's got it right.
So we're at home against DC United. Now, was this one of Wayne Rooney's first assignments on the bench, or he's been there a couple weeks, right?
Yeah, I think it's his second or third game. It's certainly not his first, but yeah, he's been called in to rescue a desperate situation in DC. They're awful.
Yeah. I think this game benchmarks why Atlanta United and DC United are 13th and 14th in the table.
So if you go to 31 seconds into the highlights, I guess that's where I would say to start. People talk about Cisneros definitely has to be the solution. This is an example of how we really should be creating goals. We're going to go through the middle here, but it ends up on Cisneros' foot and not Martinez's foot, and you can guess the outcome. So, for those who are not on YouTube channel, we're playing. It is sort of a bit of a quick counter. Almada ends up on the ball, plays through. It's a nice combination, and play the clip.
So he just drags it.
Yeah, I mean, and you've seen that a lot from Cisneros. He has scored some goals, but in key moments where he has a moment like that, you got to get that on goal.
Yeah.
And he's a little bit quick. He got quick and sped up.
Yep.
Instead of being calm and collected, and he drags it, as you say.
Yeah.
Okay, if we go to a minute into the clip, we'll just do some of these pretty quick, I guess. Zonal marking. When will we learn, Mikey Tops?
Yeah, I thought we had learned. It felt like we'd finally.
We have sort of learned on corner kicks, although as we'll get to later in a highlight, it's still too zonal. But in this case, so we're giving up a free kick to DC. We're holding the top of the 18, which is, standard, makes, sense. But one of the things I want you to notice is DC United has 3 players who are good 2-3 yards off of the line. And when they've clearly realized, they've left one on the line so that, that the line doesn't, cheat up. And they've realized we can drop 3 off. And, what I want you to notice, so what's going to happen on this play is those 3 guys are going to run through and are going to be wide open. Now, we get to the ball first. We clear it. It comes out, and this ultimately leads to the goal that we give up. And I'll talk about that in a minute afterwards. But what I want the viewers to first watch is watch the runners go through. They're not bumped at all, and they have a clean run through. And when you give a player a clean run through and a timed run, they're going to be dangerous. So play the clip. I mean, look at the 3 runners who are wide open in the box.
No body on body. Nothing there.
So we clear it. And
do you think if Rocco was maybe 6 inches taller, that maybe you get a hand of that?
Yes.
We keep talking about that.
Yeah. I mean,
how does Pineda not see this? And I know you want to champion the kid, and there was some guys that were posting some warm ups of Gudinho. And they're trying to make a big deal of the fact, like, the shooting drills where the goalkeeper is basically like a glorified cone.
Yep.
And he's just kind of like stretching and not trying at all. They're like, maybe this is why Gudinho hasn't got any minutes. And it's like, that's not how it works.
Well, this is going to be a theme of tonight's podcast is Rios Novo, but I'll give you the quote if I can pull it up. In the AJC, our friend Doug Robertson says that Pineda hinted that Raul Gudinho signed as a free agent after the season-ending injuries to Brad Guzan and Dylan Castanero may get a chance Sunday at Portland. Gudinho, who has played for Club America and the Mexican national team, has yet to make an appearance.
So, a day late, $1 short. Now, the question is, I'm assuming, right, Bocanegra is the one who targeted this goalkeeper and brought him in when Guzan went down.
Sure.
Yet, everyone's like, Boca sucks. And I don't know, like, what if this keeper's good? And Pineda's just chosen to not start him because of whatever he's seeing in practice. Maybe there's like a Mexican cultural thing. I don't know. But it just seems really weird that out of all the tinkering that we've seen from Pineda, tinker, he hasn't given this guy one stinking minute in a real game.
Right. Yeah.
What, seriously, what the fuck? I'm sorry. I don't like to cuss on this.
We went strong.
Yeah, I come on.
He's heating up.
Yeah.
He's on fire.
We're at that point in the season.
Yeah.
It's over. It's on fire.
I'm tempted to give you my full, end of podcast analysis, but I'll hold off.
Yeah, hold off.
But yeah, so in this goal that we give up, right, we've cleared the ball, right? DC United gets it. I mean, he's literally taking it off the chest and he sort of volleys it, but he's like on his heels. He gets absolutely no power on the ball. He's a good, 7 yards outside the 18, and Rios Novo gets nowhere close to it, right? I mean, that's just appalling. I mean, you got to save that. I mean, there is zero, sometimes you can say, I don't know, maybe, but you got to save this. And people in the commentators were like, good goal, but I mean, there's no power on this whatsoever. You got to get to that.
Sure. Yeah, and it dips and it takes a little it does take a deflection actually. But yeah. I think that's what made it hard is it actually did take a deflection. But, get up if he's 6 inches taller.
So what I was going to point out, this keeps happening, right? Against the Crew, he got a hand to the ball and pushed it into the side netting. Against Red Bulls, he should have saved the one up the middle. The first goal against Philly, the third goal against Philly, the goal here, right? By my estimation, in the last 3 games, that's 5 he should have saved. 5, Mikey Dobbs.
I know.
Right? I mean, in 3 games, right?
I think everybody else is seeing it. I feel bad for the kid. I really do. Because he's getting lit up on social media today, from what I've seen. So you hate to see that.
Yeah, you hate to see that, but
it is what it is.
It's a professional game, and he's not getting it done.
No,
I love the kid. Good for him, but I think he's in over his head.
Yeah, 100%.
Here's my question: is he good with his feet? Because that's what Pineda keeps saying.
I don't think so.
It's not special with his feet.
It doesn't seem like it.
He's not special, and honestly, what he's doing when he's trying to overuse his feet and he comes out, right? Like, because he's trying to play as like he's trying to plus up the team by pushing up and being able to play with his feet and press the backs forward. Like that, I guess, is the theory of like what advantage he would bring. Because he, when he does that, it's like, oh my gosh, like when they give up the ball, like these teams could totally chip him. When he's, I mean, it's
several have tried.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of time if
it's just a matter
Pineda
of time.
just keeps starting, which he might. Who knows?
It's just stubbornness, right? I mean, you get. I mean, as Pineda, you get way more access to these highlights than we have, and you're just looking at those from all the angles, and you have to be like, it's so obvious, and we weren't talking about it for a little while. I mean, early on, it really wasn't costing us as much, I don't think, but it's become so obvious. We just keep giving up goals. And it's we're at this point, we're probably at 7 goals that he's cost us over the season.
And I think
over his part of the season.
One of the listeners, Bo, was saying his GA for the season is 40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah.
Not good at all.
So at 152, we actually scored as you're about to play it. One of the things I will point out just about this goal, right? So it's a header off of Franco, off a corner kick. And, when we're crossing with the big guys in the box, Franco and Parata, and we seem to have done pretty well, worked out offensive, corner kicks, we're scoring goals. Yeah. So, when people come back to us and say about, what's the problem with the bombing down the sides and crossing it, we should be scoring those. But the problem is we're not crossing to Parata and Franco. If they were there all the time, then sure, that would be a viable strategy. And if you weren't actually in crossing all the time.
Or maybe Joseph Martinez, who doesn't play anymore.
Well, people say Joseph Martinez, and you're going to see him score off a head, but he scores off his head, but it's not like, I think people remember that because it's so memorable when he does, but that's not his modus operandi, if you will. He doesn't score most of his goals that way.
No, but he can get up and get a header, and that's a good, well, frankly, the one in this game was a gift, and such shambolic defending on Lennon.
DC United, shambolic defending? What do you mean,
Lennon had all day to cross. Well, I'm jumping ahead. And,
all right, play the clip. Let's see Franco in a moment of happiness for Atlanta United. Franco, good header. Goalkeeper, no chance.
Yeah.
Okay, and we move on to 239. We give up another goal. Yeah, I just want, you don't even have to play the clip. You could just stop it at 239. Wiley is coming in, and you won't, right now you can't see, it's a little off the screen where the DC United player is so wide open. But Wiley is so pinched in, he's very close to Gutman, and the guy out wide is wide open. I mean, if you just play it for the next 5 seconds, you'll just see where he is. There he is. Yeah. Pause it. I mean, look at the gap between we're playing 3 in the back, Mikey Dobbs, and we have a guy supposedly outside of that. And with 3 in the back, we are still pinching in our outside back to the point where he's that wide open.
So who are the 3?
Why in the world?
So we've got Franco, Parata, and Gutman is this 3 center backs in this game, right? So yeah, Wiley is very much a wing back in this scenario. Right. How has this guy got all that space? How?
It's impossible.
And look at, I mean, we have 2 defenders there. Just we've chosen not to have one go out wide and actually mark the guy running down the line.
Right.
Do you think maybe Pineda hasn't told Wiley what his true assignment is? Which
he has, because in this case, Wiley has sprinted back from being up the field, and he sprinted right next to Gutman. So he's been told to get in, to close down the middle. And I'm like, why? Particularly if you have 3 center backs. I don't even think you should do it when you have 2 center backs, but you certainly shouldn't do it when you have 3 center backs.
No, I mean, I think you're saying what I'm saying, which is he's being told the wrong thing by Pineda, which is, get back and out wide, right? Let Pineda or let Gutman stay central here and, make sure this guy doesn't get a cross off. Like, that's your job, is to close the pressure there. And this guy, I'm sure, is going to have all day once he settles.
So he actually passes it back to another guy who's also wide open, who crosses it, and they score.
Yeah.
And in fairness, Franco doesn't do a great job. The guy runs in front of him to head for a goal. But when you give up really, really good open crosses like that, they're whipped in, it's hard to defend.
I know. That's why everybody is like they're saying, Franco and even, Parata give up too many goals, but it's a symptom of everything else that's happening that leads up to it.
I can hear somebody out there saying, look, you're being hypocritical, right? We get those crosses and don't get goals, and you're saying, why is it so dangerous now? But the guy he's crossing to here is what, like 6'3", 6'2", 6 foot, whatever it is, right? And is clearly, Kamara, that's his role, right? It's the only way he can score. He's not going to dribble around you.
And by the way, that was an excellent cross.
Oh, it was a terrific cross. But Lennon's been putting in good crosses.
Not like, honestly, though, like that's a good cross. That's a bent ball that's got a lot of speed to it. All you got to do is get any contact to it. You don't see a lot of crosses from Atlanta United like that.
Okay, I'm going to disagree with you. Go to 343. Lennon crosses to Martinez for the goal.
It's you can go to it.
Let's go. Come on.
Hey Dave. First off, you're wrong on your other thing, but you're wrong on this one too. This is pretty much a lobbed ball, and Joseph Martinez. So okay, as this sets up here,
you set the scene for them.
So I'll set the scene. Lennon's got it in the far right. For whatever reason, he's still able to dribble to the end line and have all day to cross the ball. Like he really
terrible defending.
There's like no pressure on him. He has all day, and he plays a fine cross, but it's not what we just saw. It wasn't a whipped, speedy cross that had like an angle on it. He kind of lobbed it up, and Joseph Martinez, for some reason, DC United let him have like 10 feet of free space around him. He just jumps up and generates all the power on his own and puts it in. Totally different than what we just saw.
Yep.
And if that was a good cross from Lennon, it would have just smacked his head and gone in. Because, by the way, Martinez is wide open here. So if it was a fantastic cross, it would have been drilled at his head and he would have just sunk it into near post or far post.
And can you remind the viewers what goal off a cross this is for the season?
It's the second, Dave.
Second. How many games have we played?
So, yeah, for all these people out there that say, oh, Lennon is great at crossing, which you were just saying, I totally disagree. This is not that great of cross. Let's let it run. I mean, it's fine. I mean, it works, right? But he's got all day.
Yeah, it is pretty lofted.
Yeah, he lofted it up.
Yeah, he should have whipped it. You're right.
And it makes Joseph do all the work
I hate to say it. You're right.
Oh, gosh.
Damn it.
Thank you, Dave.
Well, I thought I had the counterpunch to you because I'm like, we can't score off a cross, but we can.
For a guy who didn't watch the game, I know what's going on.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
How do you
seriously,
do that?
we've only had 2 goals off crosses.
But wait, the third is coming.
Yeah.
There's a third in this game. There's 2 in this game.
Yeah, like legit crosses, right? Like this is the second from Lennon.
Yeah, that was a legit cross. And so if you go to 509, the third goal off a cross. But here I'm going to say asterisk, caveat. So at 509, we're going to score another goal off a cross. But it starts out as a free kick, okay? And because it starts out as a free kick, the initial free kick is cleared and we get it and get another cross. When the second cross comes, Parata and Franco are still forward, right? And so we are now aiming for those 2 guys instead of Martinez. So it's kind of like a corner. Yeah. It's not a true free. You don't have it in a normal free crossing situation. You don't have your 2 center backs in the box. So play the clip. All right. So Lennon on the other side now. Parata, and if you let it keep playing, I want you to notice not only has Parata scored the goal, but right behind him is Franco, and he probably would have scored if Parata missed. So,
yeah,
those are target guys who are big dudes who are going after the ball in the air. That makes some sense to me, but
yeah, and that's what one of the comments on the podcast was saying. When we have people in there and there's a good cross, and there's another example from Lennon. That's a great cross from Lennon. That's an excellent cross. That had pace and had a curl to it.
Still, I was looking at it after what you just said. It's still got a little loft on it. It wasn't as whipped in as the DC one.
No, but I mean, it was also a longer cross. It was to the back post, so it had to get a little air underneath it, and I think he was targeting those 2 guys too. So in my mind, that was an excellent cross.
And I would say we're not going to show the clip, but in the Philadelphia game, late in the game, there's another one that we almost score on, and it's a cross to Dom Dwyer. And again, if Dom Dwyer was your starting forward, then sure, right? Put the ball up in the air. That guy's an animal, right? Yeah. That makes sense to me, right? But not only we're starting Cisneros or Martinez, and so that's not Dwyer or Franco or Parata. But then you add on top of that, we have a number of guys in our starting lineup who don't go and finish those. Almada, Moreno, Araujo. And those guys can score goals when you play it to their feet. And so when you're crossing, you're not playing to their feet by definition. So it's like a triple threat.
Yeah. Okay. We going to Philadelphia?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So this is a team that we knew was going to be hard as hell to beat on the road.
Yeah, they're very good.
Coming into this game, they had beaten their previous two opponents 6-0, 6-0. So 12-0 goal differential. So the fact that there's a 16-1 goal differential that they've got now after this game against Atlanta United, Philadelphia might be good.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is, I don't actually like the way Philadelphia Curtin is not my favorite. They play extremely narrow, right? They actually give a lot of the open spaces that we do too.
Yeah.
Right. But the thing is, they're designed to do that, right? Their entire team is designed to do that, right? Including, the way they defend in the back, when they do give up crosses, they don't have people up, caught up. Even when they're narrow, those guys get out quick to defend. They're designed to do that. It's a system. We do it by accident because guys are up the field and they can't scramble back. So even though I don't like Curtin that much, it's not my favorite formation, it fits their team.
Yeah.
And they're designing to do it, right? So, one thing about Curtin is that he lost a couple of his best players. Brendan Aronson was the star of this team. Last year it was the Polish guy. They're all gone, and they're still winning the league.
Right.
So that's really, really well done. It's good coaching.
So why can't Atlanta United is just not playing as a team. Dig into a little bit of that. Like, what's the maybe this is like your end of the thing.
Yeah,
rants.
let's finish these highlights and then I'll tell you.
Let's get through the highlights.
What the problem is.
Let's go through the pain of Philadelphia.
Yeah, so at 50 seconds in, this is the reason why you don't play a 5'9" goalkeeper. Any other goalkeeper in the MLS saves this shot. Play the clip. So it's outside the 18. He doesn't have a lot of momentum running onto it. He hits sort of a rug burner, right? You got to save that.
Yeah.
You can't blame the defenders for that.
Yeah, I think I'd be mad at my 15-year-old if that went in.
Yeah. Troy saves that.
Ouch. Carmen coming with the blows.
Oh,
But Troy's 6 foot tall.
this is true.
He's got probably 3 inches on Rio's Novo.
Everybody calm down. Maybe Pineda, he said he would start him in Portland. Coutinho,
Even if he does, right? It's
Yeah.
7 games too late. So if you take 7 goals off the table, and maybe the other goalkeeper doesn't make 7 saves, but maybe you take 5 goals off the table. You take 5 goals off the table, we're a playoff team.
Yeah.
Right? So just by fact of being stubborn and playing Rio's Novo, even with all the catastrophic everything else, we're still a mediocre playoff team if he makes the right call on the goalkeeper.
Yep.
In my opinion.
All right, what's next in this game? So, yeah, I think they come back and score one here, right? Make it 1-1.
Yeah, we come back and score, and just at 139, it's an attack through the middle. Again, Almada gets on the ball, right? And, again, this is what Atlanta United should be doing all season, is playing ticky-tacky through the middle on the ground, right? You get Almada on the ball in the box. He makes the goalkeeper really work to save, who, God bless, they have the best goalkeeper in the league in Blake.
Right.
And, he not only doesn't give up the goal that Rio Noah gives up, but he also makes spectacular saves, including on this play.
Yeah.
It is a sensational save. Now, he has no chance of getting a hold of the rebound because he can only get possibly one hand to it, and Gutman scores off the rebound on a diving header.
Right.
But, this is all the difference.
Let it run here. So, yeah, there goes Cisneros to Almada.
Araujo back to Almada.
Oh, that's a good.
That is a great save.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where a big frame is just, such a big difference.
Yeah.
Look at the frame on that guy versus, it's everything.
Yeah. I wanna talk about 2 things.
Do you think that goalkeepers wear colors on their jersey for a reason? Dave,
to attract it. Yeah.
Is there a scientific
yellow,
right?
Yeah, it draws your eye to it, and it makes you shoot a little bit more towards the goalkeeper. I think there is some evidence for that.
More color and more, I think there's, if there's evidence there, then there's evidence for another foot of jersey. Then I'm gonna hit. Yeah.
One of the things I want to point out. So, So Gutman has scored 3 goals since coming back, which is amazing. All 3 goals were him playing as one of the 3 in a center back 3. And my point in talking about that is when we play our normal defense and you have only 4 in the back and the 2 outside guys are automatically going, everybody knows where the guy is coming from, right? There's no surprise, right? Everybody knows it's going to be the outside backs and it's never going to be the center back. When we play 3, you actually have an opportunity for Gutman or anybody else to go forward, right? Which means you can score that goal. Right, I mean, Gutman ends up in the 6-yard box there because he's one of the middle 3. He can go forward because if they lose the ball, he knows that there's 2 guys back there.
Yeah,
right, and that's part of the problem with their outside backs going forward is we lose the ball. They don't know that other people are back there, so that's one thing, right? And then 2. Right? It's a surprise element, right? So nobody knows where the guy is coming from. Is anybody going to mark our center back coming forward, into the 6-yard box? Nobody's responsible for that. Maybe somebody does a great job and picks him up.
Yeah.
Right? But as you could see on that replay, he just comes through on the rebound and there's nobody near him.
Right.
So, I mean, that I think, when you're playing well offensively, it's about making the defenders make decisions where they don't always know where it's coming from. It's a surprise. It's different, right? When you don't win the ball further up the field, one of the ways you can break a defense down is have a runner going through where it's not marked. But if it's the same runner all the time, that coach has been coaching for a week. Oh, yeah, that's when we're going to happen. We know what the responsibility. This is what you do. Fine, done.
Yeah.
Done. Now,
well, before we go on real quick, some people in the chat have said that we're not playing as a team and folks are kind of playing
hero ball. Right.
Are y'all seeing that?
Yes. I mean, but this, there's a tendency to blame players for hero ball, but any team, as soon as it truly goes south and you start to get frustrated, you give up terrible goals all the time, then that happens, right? So, and it doesn't matter. I've seen it even happen to great teams with team players who will pour their heart out for you, whatever. No team can withstand giving up cheap goals.
Yeah. And I mean, the only hero ball that I feel like I see is you kind of have to let it run when you have such a talent is like Araujo. You give him the flexibility to take a bunch of people on. But I think someone mentioned this in the comments too. What I hate about Araujo, and he even did this early on in the season before things went sideways. Like even in little moments, he gets frustrated too easily.
Yes,
and he puts on his.
He doesn't have a lot of composure,
and he puts on his pouty face.
Yep,
and that's just not what you want from leadership. I mean, the guy's 26. He's not a spring chicken. He's right in his prime.
Right.
And that's not what you want to be demonstrating as a leader on the team, which he is one of the older guys on the team. He came from Lille in Ligue 1. I mean, this guy should be the guy who shows the way for these younger kids.
Yeah.
And he's, kind of giving payback to people unnecessarily. He gets these stupid yellow cards.
Yep.
I think he has the most yellow cards of any other Atlanta United player. and they're all like stupid ones. They're not like fouls.
Although Don Dwyer got one off the bench again.
Good for him.
What I would say is that, if you have players who have tremendous character, the Roy Keanes of the world, right, then maybe even when it's, whatever, they're still going to be composed and do it, whatever.
Right.
The average player, as soon as you're giving up cheap goals, is going to go, and I don't think you can really call them as not having character. It's just that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
Now, we were having a debate about whether we had a disagreement or a bet about Gutman, right? So early on in the season, we were like, Gutman's getting forward into all these great spots. And I'm like, we were worried because we're like, part of the problem is he's getting on the ball with great spots and he's not scoring, and you'd rather have Almada or Araujo or whatever. And I just kind of said I thought that he just looks like a classy player, and I kept saying that I thought he's going to keep scoring. Now, eventually I decided, well, maybe not. If he doesn't score, he's going to score. But I think you thought he would never score. Is that true?
I don't think I would say he would never score. No, I don't think I would say that's where I think our lines are divided. Like, I mean, my point was is almost agreeing with the original assessment, even like Lennon and Gutman. those are the guys like, and even Wiley, right? Like when they get those opportunities from the bombing down the left and they can get a shot on goal. And I would say Gutman's probably the best out of all of them. I will agree with you on that. But, you want your Morenos or Araujos in those situations, which that brings me to another topic. Pineda's clearly benched Moreno and said, you're not the solution. And again, it has to do with Pineda's lack of consistency and putting the best players on the field and saying, let's stick with the best players in the field for at least 4 games, Dave. Give me 4 games. Right?
Well,
I don't know what the matter.
You're hinting it. I mean, I agree with you, and I'm gonna say almost exactly what you're saying. Unfortunately,
right. I'm unprepared, but I'm just going with my gut right now. Especially with everybody pretty much back healthy, other than Miles and Alonso and Guzan, right? Like we've got the team back.
Yep.
And that's been the case for the last 3-4 games when it matters most, right? And so. How can you not?
You want me to give it to you now, or you still want to finish the Philly highlights?
Let's just crank through this and get to the meat of where our heart is, because this season is done, and we've got to start thinking about Pineda as the future or not.
Yeah. 253, Carmen in the highlight package. There's a counterattack from Philadelphia, right? Yeah, right, perfect. So. If you're looking at this clip, that's Wiley, a very, very, very fast player in white defensively. And I don't know who it is for Philadelphia. Maybe Gaz, I can't pronounce his name, from Hungary. But anyway, who do you think's getting to the ball?
I mean, in this situation, it's tough because Wiley isn't in full stride where the Philadelphia player is. Wiley's a little closer, but he's at an angle. So you feel like it's going to be almost 50-50 by the time it happens, but you're going to go advantage Philadelphia because he's got a straight line on the ball.
Yeah,
so if he can get a toe to it, I honestly don't remember what happens here, so I'm just looking at this frame.
So Wiley's going to come over. It looks like he can get there first, or at least at the exact same time. And he's so worried about getting beat because there's no one else behind him that he pulls out of this challenge. Play it for the next 5 seconds.
Oh,
see?
Stop it. And he had 3 people in cover, all bombing back.
Yeah, but this is part of the snowballing effect, right? In any kind of normal defensive play, if you had anybody else back, he goes in all out and he makes the challenge, right? But you see how he hesitated in his mind and he pulled out of that challenge? Because for those of you who aren't on YouTube, it was Philadelphia running towards midfield on a counterattack. Wiley is the only one back because I think it was a corner. And God bless us, only leave one guy back on corners, and he can't make that challenge. He goes to make the challenge, he hesitates, and then he backs out.
And at minimum, I mean, he could have just kept his feet and blocked him from doing anything. I mean, there's no way that.
Okay, now pause it again. Pause it. So we're going to play it a few more seconds, and you're going to see that he is now going to play the ball to an absolutely offside Philadelphia player. Now, this is something we've talked about in the past. This is my pet peeve on the refereeing thing.
And then he lets it go. I'm losing the audio here.
Yeah.
And then he lets it go to the guy who's onside, who's dragging behind, right?
Right. So, in my opinion, he plays it here to a guy who's clearly offside, and it's literally right at his feet. He literally almost dummies it, right? That's offside, right? He played it to a guy. You can't say he wasn't in the play, right? I would have flagged it, and they would say, yeah, but he didn't touch it. I said, it doesn't matter. He's in the play.
It's the same concept as if an offside player's blocking the vision of the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
It's the same thing here. It's like he's part of the play. He's making the defenders react in a way that offsides is in
and I've told you, it's absolutely ripe for the exploitation. If you're a terrible side and you can't score, send the guy 10 yards offside, play it to him, all the defenders stop, and just count on your guys already knowing that and running on, you get breakaway.
Yep.
Right, so play the clip. They're going to show it in a reverse angle, and you can really see how offside he is.
Saving it off the line anyway there.
Yeah, we do. We end up saying off the line, but here now show right. Look how badly offside he is, and it goes right to him, and he's just like, "Oh, I'm gonna leave it." Right? That is exploiting the rules. What do you think, Carmen?
Yeah, definitely. And he's in Parata's way. Is
Yes.
that Parata? I can't.
Yeah,
say
it's
that part.
Parata.
But he's also sort of in Parata's way
Yeah,
to get
that's a
to
good
him.
point too.
Right?
So, yeah.
So Pineda was livid about this. I think, God bless, I think that had they scored and they VAR'd this, I think they would have let the goal stand. They said as long as he doesn't touch it, it's okay. And I think it's not okay. It's not okay, Mikey Dobbs.
We'll never know what MLS refereeing and VAR would do.
Yeah. 3:43. Corner kick.
So this is the dying seconds of the half. This is
keep going a little further.
This is when I stopped listening on the radio. I was like, "Oh, it's going to be 1-1 at halftime."
Just go a few seconds further. You're almost there.
I was like, "If we can get the tie, I'll be happy." We're on the road in Philadelphia, a team that's better than us.
There you go.
I was just kind of hoping for a tie at this point. And then
we dominated, a large spell of this first half, right? They gave up the first goal that never should have given up because Rios Novo should make the save.
Yeah.
Then we score right to get it back. But anyway, we're at 1-1 here. And now, Mikey Dobbs, we have it paused here right on the corner kick. Right? Is it zonal marking or is it man-to-man?
So we've got a guy who is clearly zoned at the front post.
Because there's nobody anywhere close to him.
There's a guy at the top of the box marking the guy that he's in the center of the box, but he's marking the guy at the top of the circle.
Yeah, sure.
It looks like the two guys on the back are marked up 1v1. So there's man v man on the two guys on the end. There's another guy who's kind of cutting in near post, and he looks like he's marked. Gutman, there's a guy in front of him, so I'm assuming he's marking him man v man. And then Wiley is letting his guy standing free in front of him on the back post. So
That's the definition of a zone, Mikey Dobbs.
So I don't get
when you let a guy be 2 yards goal side of you, inside closer to the thing. That's the definition of a zone.
So, but there's one guy. It's not even zone. It's just not. Yes,
that is zone because the coach has told him that we're going to play those guys across, and so he sees that guy. and he's standing there.
Hold on,
he's not that much of an idiot.
Well, no, I mean Wiley's clearly that much of an idiot. Who's he marking? Like, who's he even zone marking at this point?
It does in a zone. You're not marking.
No, but
that's the whole point.
No,
I think you misunderstand a zone.
I don't misunderstand a zone.
Okay.
I mean, you might as well walk to the corner flag in this situation.
Well, no, he's there in case the ball is delivered there and somebody from the middle runs over to there.
Who? What is Wiley also has to assess the situation. I know the kid's 17, but who's behind him?
Not in his zone. That's not the role.
It's Dave.
This is what they're being coached.
At some point, there's accountability on a player to use your brain.
Well.
Okay, so you have to have soccer brains at some point. Whether you're playing zone or not, who does Wiley have in this situation that's a threat?
Nobody.
Even in a zone, right? So you're zoning up. If there were two players that were like coming in away from the back.
Well, who's the guy on the front? I don't know who it is, but maybe Lennon or something. Who's on the front post? Who is he marking?
No, and he's zone for sure.
That's zone.
But like you
what's the difference?
Well, what the difference is like you said, there can be one guy who's zone, right? Which could be like a Joseph or Lennon in this case, coming off the near post. Now, if Wiley is marking inside his defender there, then we're all pretty much man v man here, right? Correct.
I think that they're
correct. I just went through the whole thing. If Wiley is sitting inside of his guy, we are man v man. Right, Dave?
You would think that, but it's not actually true. It just looks that way by where sort of Philadelphia players are actually
you're asking
playing.
me to assess what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I know. But what I'm saying is, when Carmen hits play on the clip, you'll see that the Philadelphia players, of course, will take off. As soon as they take off, you can tell who's zoning and who's man marking. Because if you're man marking, you go with. If you're zoning, you don't. You stay in there and you wait for someone to come into your zone, right? And so you'll actually see on this clip that the vast majority of Atlanta United players, I think it's 6, are zoning, right? There's only 3 who run with a player, maybe 4. It's a little unclear about the 4th player, but nobody runs with a player, including Wiley has been told as an 18-year-old, this is your zone. You don't go over there. That's supposed to be Gutman or Parata in that other zone there.
Now, Gutman's got the guy that's right in front of him.
Well, that one in a zone, if 2 guys come into there, then it's 2v1 by definition. That's the way it works.
Let's see this. I think this was designed to be man v man, and Wiley's on an island losing his mind.
No.
Go ahead. Let's hit this. Yeah. That was supposed to be man v man. The players got it all wrong.
No. No,
you're wrong.
No.
Coach Dave, you're wrong. I just disagree. Like I will at the bar with you. I disagree.
So wait, freeze it.
Oh,
we missed it. Okay, go back. Just go back
All
a
right.
few things. I'll tell you when to freeze it again.
Let's see.
Just go back 10. Yeah.
A little more.
Yeah. Okay, I hit play.
Let's see if I can.
Hold on a second. All right, ready. And freeze it. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can tell by definition that it had been a zone, because in a zone, the players are there and they go after the ball. If you're man to man, you mark them the entire time. If you look, there are 3 players at the 6-yard box on Philadelphia, all of whom are wide open. That is the definition of a zone. Because otherwise, you have to say that Parada doesn't know what he's doing, Franco doesn't know what he's doing, right? Araujo doesn't know what he's doing, Sosa doesn't know what he's doing.
Correct.
I don't buy it.
I honestly think in that scenario that is none of them know what they're doing, because they marked up on a player, okay, man to man. We just watched it. They set up so what you're saying is they set up man to man and they chose to play it as a zone because they all attacked the ball and left their man, which is exactly what happens. So I'm not going to disagree with you that the players played it like a zone, but they set up from the onset like it was man v man.
They played it like a zone because it was a zone.
No, they played it. They played man v man and then just ran towards the ball.
I completely disagree.
They left their mark. Had they bumped their guy and stayed on him?
There's no such thing as leaving your mark in a zone, because you're supposed to be marking an area, and when the ball comes there, you go to the ball, right? The whole idea of a zone is that there can be no spaces open because everybody is equally, spaced out, and you only go to the ball and try to win it if it's in your area, right? And so it doesn't matter. There can be 3 guys who run into your area. That's no problem, because you're there, you win the ball. That's the idea behind a zone. Now, anybody who knows would say 3v1, we're in big trouble, right? That's why it doesn't make any sense, right? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's maybe why I'm confused, because every one of our players
it's awful.
Had a man and they chose not to stay with him.
Yeah, because they're in a zone.
They weren't in a zone. They were man v man, but maybe they were being coached to play that as a zone,
Carmen,
which
what do you
I
think?
don't understand. Carmen, what are you seeing, honestly?
No, I too am confused. Were they playing a hybrid, like some man, some zone is what you're saying?
Well, the only hybrid was Lennon was free on the near post to attack the ball.
No. The hybrid is there was only 3 players who were actually man marking. And you could see that because as soon as that clip played, 3 guys went with 3 Philadelphia players and everybody else stood where they were.
I agree. You could only see it when the play plays, right?
Yeah, it's really hard to. I'm putting you in a bad situation
Correct.
by saying who the zone is or whatever. Until you actually see it go, it's hard to tell.
That is my point.
Okay.
Thank you for saying that because you.
I don't mean to throw you under the bus. That's not my.
You're throwing me under the bus because
I'm sorry.
I didn't get to watch this game.
Yeah.
I was fishing.
Fair.
But if you're just analyzing the game, right? You're like, oh, they're all marked up 1v1 except for Wiley, which I don't understand why he's like lingering on the far post.
Because it's a zone.
No, but hold on. Yeah. Stop it. But even in a zone, he shouldn't be there.
In a zone, he should be there.
No, he shouldn't. Why?
The zone is stupid.
Who
in a zone? That's what you're supposed to do.
But who would he be? What in a zone? Though you also have to read the.
The idea
in a zone, you also have to read the setup of the situation, and there was no one where that zone position could have been helpful.
Yeah, well, in a zone, you're supposed to stay there so that maybe there's nobody there at all, but let's say it gets deflected and it goes there, or maybe a guy makes a bent run around the far post and now you're the guy who's waiting there for that run, but you're supposed to stay there. That's the whole point.
I know, but no one was going to be there.
Yeah.
No one could have possibly been
Often
there.
nobody is going to be there, Mikey Dobbs, because, anybody who sees, a good coach who sees that the other team is playing a zone, all you do is overload the zone, right? So if you're playing, you're a football fan, right? So if you're playing
football is in soccer?
No, as in American football.
No, I stopped watching in 2016.
Well, you've watched
I don't know if you remember
game.
28-3, but that was the last time I watched.
Yeah. So if you have a zone, which happens a lot in the NFL, it's really hard to cover man-to-man, right? They usually have some guy trying to cover man-to-man, and then there's somebody's zone to pick that up. It's like a free safety or something, right? But if they play a bunch wide receivers, right? So let's say they play 4 or 5 receivers all on one side, and you have a zone and you only have one guy over there, right? The defense is always going to audible out of that and change, right? They're never going to leave the one guy trying to mark 5 guys. But in a zone and a corner kick in American in European football, soccer, right? You can't audible out of that, right? That's the whole point.
No, that was my point. Is anybody who has soccer brains, which I'll give Wiley a little bit of slack here, should have realized he was no good. Sitting outside playing zone on no one that could get into that zone. That's my point.
But that's not what the coaches are telling them. Their coaches are like, this is your area. And
sometimes
you defend this area.
What the coach told you and what reality is are different than what's being a good soccer player.
Sure, but why would the coach tell you if it's bad?
Because this coach is not a good coach.
I mean, I always go back to Benitez when he was coaching Liverpool. Right, and he was one of the pioneers on zonal marking defensively, right, on free kicks and corners.
Rafael Benitez.
Rafael Benitez when he was coaching Liverpool, and he's like, zone is much better. We don't get picked off. There's all this chaos that goes on, and the zone is the only way to defend it. And the journalists said, yeah, but you've given up by far the most goals off of corner kicks and free kicks in the league. He says, and he walks off don't ever let reality get in the way of a good system.
Don't let stats bother you.
Yeah, like, I mean, speaking of stats, how many goals have we given up on set pieces this year?
Oh man, oof. I'm gonna guess like how many games have we played?
What are we at?
At least 20, right?
At least 20, right?
Right.
Yep.
So I'm gonna guess 25 goals.
No, that's
high.
really high.
Okay, what's the number?
We've given up 12. It's leading the league.
I feel like
and none of those have been on.
At the beginning of the season, I just felt like all our goals were set pieces.
Yeah, we talked a lot about corner kicks.
It's really bad. In a typical Premier League season, if you lead the entire league in giving up goals, it's somewhere around 10. The really good teams on free kicks, they give up. There are teams that give up like 2, 3, right? I mean, if you get it right, you get it right. And that makes a huge difference. 2 or 3 and 12 is really big. That's a lot.
Let's get through this package of highlights here of us getting drummed 4-1.
Yeah, so there's only one more highlight. God bless. 4:59.
I'm frightened.
Yeah, Rios Novo. Rios Novo. Okay, so what's going to happen is Philadelphia's going to cross the ball. It gets headed a mile up in the air. Any goalkeeper who had any height would come and claim. And he comes and absolutely obliterates the Philadelphia player. Gets nowhere near the ball. It's by definition a red card. And the only reason why the referee doesn't give him a red card is the referee feels so bad because he looks terrible and they gave up the goal. Because he falls over, the ball drops down, and the guy just kicks it in the goal, Mikey Dobbs.
All right, let's see this. All right.
You're not going to be impressed. It goes up. Watch me
I did watch this earlier, and why did Rios Novas come out for that?
as a 5'9" goalkeeper, you cannot come out for that.
That's what it is.
But a good goalkeeper would come and claim that.
Or a
up in the
tall
air,
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
But he absolutely obliterates. Watch how he hits the Philadelphia player. I mean, he punches right through him. Oh!
Yeah, but if you're a big player there, you get away with that because you're just a big player.
Sure.
But when you're a little guy who punches somebody in the face,
But he gets nowhere close to the ball,
No,
and the ball drops behind him.
he wasn't. He was at least a second and a half late to that. I mean, that was awful.
Yeah, he wasn't. He was never getting anywhere close to
That
that.
was depressing. Can we stop watching this highlight?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So
let's get to the.
I'm just gonna reiterate what I said before from Doug Roberson. Pineda hinted that Raul Godinho may get a chance Sunday at Portland. You think?
Oh my goodness.
You think? How long ago would you have made that change, Mickey Does?
As soon as he was available, Dave. Like that's.
Yes.
I was so excited about the guy. I was
Yes, because we were like, and we said this actually at the time. If you go back in the podcast, we said, "Look, God, great. We had Pineda. He bailed us out. Pineda. We had Nias Novo for a week. He bailed us out, but now we got a good tall goalkeeper.
Right.
Let's go." And I said at the time, he is not our answer. Right, even before any of this happened.
I was excited about Godinho. I was like, all right, great. We got this guy who's got experience. Was it Guadalajara he was at? And
Club America.
No, I don't think so.
Godinho. It said Godinho, who has played for Club America and the Mexican national team. That's according to Doug Roberson.
Okay, then there you go. Either way, I expected him to get a start right away. At least once he got comfortable with the club, he was healthy. Give the guy a start. And Pineda,
give him a chance.
What in the world could be going on behind the scenes where this guy can't even get a minute?
I don't know.
I mean, the people on Twitter happen to think he's not a good enough cone during the warm-ups for the strikers to shoot at him from the penalty spot.
I'll take a 6'3" cone over a 5'9".
1,000%.
Every time. I mean, you hate to say that because you're like better goalkeeper, but it doesn't matter. You could be a twice as good goalkeeper and you're still not as good at 5'9" than a 6'3".
Yeah, but I'm with Mikey Dodd. He tinkers with so much.
You set me up.
Why not?
It's like, I have to say, dear podcast listener, Mikey Dobbs and Carmen have not been. This is not a setup. Okay. All right. But you're saying the exact same thing. So here it is. Right. So Pineda is always a few weeks late in figuring out a problem. Okay. So, the Rios Novo was a perfect example. The fact that he is now considering making a change is a little bit too late. But even more importantly, right, he has no ability to figure out which changes are working and which are not. For example, I'll give you an example, right? So Araujo, right, at some point in the middle of the season, he switched him from an inverted to a normal, right? Right away, he assisted the ball with his left foot, and he got a chance on goal. It looked like it was going to work. But he put Araujo right back to inverted. So maybe he didn't think that worked. Maybe he didn't. But here's the thing, okay? And this is exactly what you guys have been saying. When part of the problem, a huge part of the problem, is when you change so many things at once, when you do that, it's really, really hard to figure out which changes are working and which ones are not, right? If you're not really seeing the problem, right, then, if you were to see the problem, right, you make a change that you think that will fix the problem and you stick with it. But if you don't really see what the problem is, you're not sure, right? Then you have no conviction. You switch things back. You start switching this, and shortly thereafter, you start becoming a tinkerer.
The only thing Pineda has kept consistent is Rios Novos in goal.
Yes.
And this is a guy that's supposed to be analytical.
Yeah.
That he can't look up what you showed in 3 podcasts ago, that 79% or 79 other goalkeepers in MLS that are on an MLS team, 79 other goalkeepers are over 6'2", which means really most, and I think you said like 99% of the starters are 6'4".
Yeah, they're 6'3" or 6'4". Yeah.
6'3". I mean, you're 5-6 inches. That's gigantic in any sort of sample size of what is relevant.
So at the end of the day, in my opinion, coaching is about seeing and understanding, right? And I don't think Pineda sees or really understands. For example, if he really saw or if he really understood, he would have at least tried an experiment of not sending the backs forward all the time, or even there have been occasional moments where we've looked mediocre the whole game. We've finally gotten a game-tying goal or a go-ahead goal, right, Mikey Dobbs? And he's still sending the guys back, outside the sides, guys bombing down the sides. And so if you can't see it and call it off then, that means you have no idea that it's causing us a problem.
Yeah.
Because even if you felt like it's such an advantage attacking-wise that it's worth it, you would never do it if you just got a 1-goal lead and there's 5 minutes left in the game. You would just call off the dogs. He never does, which means he doesn't see it as a problem.
I'm exhausted, Dave.
That's it.
I'm really exhausted of where we are as a
So he's seeing little things, he's switching things, some of which are working, some of which are not, but you have no ability to identify that because you're making too many switches, right? And he can't really figure out, and he doesn't really know exactly what the problem is, so he's trying this, he's trying that, whatever, and you can't figure it out. It becomes tinkering. Yeah. Right? It becomes waffling, right? The players don't know what you're doing then. You're not actually, even if you're wrong, Mikey Dobbs, if you think that there's a problem and you make one consistent change to fix it, then the players can believe in it.
Yeah.
Even if it's not right, you sometimes will overcome that because the players are like, whoa, the coach sees what the problem is.
So Dave, and we talked a little bit about this in the last podcast, right? So if somebody's assessing the performance of Pineda,
yep,
it would have been Darren Eales previously. Like whose role would that be to make a decision? Like, is this the right coach?
I still think it's probably Bocanegra's, but I don't really know.
Like that's what I'm saying. Okay, Bocanegra has potentially the power to say, okay, Pineda doesn't get it. God bless. I hope he does, and I hope. And this is where if I would love to know, who can we ask this question to get to an answer, right? Because Darren Eales,
Jason might know some about inside working, about who would really make that call. And that's a question you can ask him. You can't necessarily ask a guy who's within the system to, throw the coach under the bus or whatever, but you can ask him who's making that call.
Yeah. I mean, but right now,
Jason Longshore for
but right now, right? Like you can only assume, as far as someone who has any qualification to do it within the front office is Bocanegra, correct?
Yeah.
So the only person right now to go to Darren or to go to Arthur Blank with any sort of gumption and be like, look, we tried the Pineda experiment. We brought in the nice guy to, fix the Heinze water break fiasco of somebody who I still think Heinze was our guy, dude.
He's certainly better than Pineda.
He's definitely better.
I mean, he's
than
a
Pineda.
nut job.
He's a nut. I like nut jobs. You know this. No water for you. I love that.
Oh, God.
That's how I grew up. You don't need water.
Who cares about the rules? You can't train, 17 days in a row. Who needs water? Just go. Come on. They're professional. You die on your own time. Yeah. Play here, go home and die. Don't do it here.
But that we're at the point now where we're looking at 2023, right? So now you got Bocanegra trying to figure out, okay, what roster change things need to happen, what coaching changes need to happen, because he's the only guy qualified to consult with Arthur Blank, right? Somebody would have to sack.
Hold on. I want to stop you 1/2 second there. We're still only 3 points below the playoff line.
We're done, dude. We're done. Will you stop it?
I agree with you, but just to be fair to the people out there who might be like, are we truly done? Is it over? Points wise,
it's done.
Well, what I would say is the counter to that argument is points-wise, you've needed to make the playoffs in the past. We're not getting there. So I agree with you. I think those of you who are thinking that we're only 3 points below the line, it's overly optimistic. It's not going to happen. So go ahead. Sorry.
I think we have a chance. I'm just going to put it out there. I'm going to put it out there.
Just saying there is a chance.
Samsonite. I was way off. Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
I'm here for the jokes.
Yes.
All right. So we're looking towards 2023.
Yep.
We've got to make some changes, Dave. This is not working.
Just one.
Exactly. So this is...
It's an easy fix.
It's an easy fix. Find a coach. We've talked about it before, who has a resume that's a winning resume. Mm-hmm. So you don't make the change unless you find that guy who's willing to come to Atlanta,
right,
and be the coach who has a winning resume.
Right.
There's a ton of options. I'm sure there's a ton of options out there.
I think people think that there are a ton of options. They're not really. There's surprisingly few really excellent coaches. Now, I think a mediocre coach with this team would have us well above the playoff line. Maybe even have an outside chance of winning a title. I think we can do better. So what I would say is, even if you don't get it right and get a real winning coach, we'd still be way better off.
You don't think we could attract like a Liga MX coach with the U.S. Dream, like wants to make a
Tata Martino?
No, he's Argentinian though, and he's the Mexican international.
He's the Mexican national.
I'm talking about
coach.
like a Liga MX coach,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like a guy who's got a winning record, right? A guy who's proven, he's got years of experience.
Yeah.
How can we not get one of those guys?
Well, to be honest with you, even as I have said in the past, which people go nuts about, right? I'd even go in the college ranks and find, Caleb Porter came out of nowhere to win national title with Akron, right? And he can clearly coach, right? Coaching is coaching at any level, right? If you get a winner, right? I mean,
I don't know that yes.
can they handle this kind of, the professionalism, the press conferences, the dealing with egos, who knows?
Yeah.
But so I'd rather have a professional coach with a winning record. But if push came to shove,
yeah, I feel like if you're doing your research, right, and like who's in the English Premier League, even Champions League, championships sides, right there, maybe one of those coaches wants to be in the U.S. for a little while. Somebody who's got a winning record, right? That's even like a mid-level team that's overachieving.
Well, Tuchel's about to get fired.
Oh God!
Don't bring him here.
He's got a winning record.
He's my least favorite coach.
Well, who it is? Pochettino's available, but he's not coming here.
No, there's some guys who's just not coming here.
Right. I mean, I agree. One thing we've done, and I don't know the coaching as much. We've brought in a lot of players from the South American ranks, and I think that would probably be one place I'd be seriously looking is at the coaches. I would take a coach who's doing well in Argentina or Brazil.
We bring all these players. Why don't we bring a coach from?
Yeah. And they might want to get out of the madness as the players do of all that.
Yeah. Have
stability, get paid a lot.
Don't have their car tires slashed after they lose a game. That probably happens down there.
Yeah. But Tata's the obvious one. Why not?
I know we talked about it. Tata's not coming though. He's not coming.
Why not?
No.
What else is he gonna do?
He left Atlanta United because he said he didn't. The rigor of the MLS schedule. He's traveling so much, and that's why he took an international job. The coaching duties are much less in terms of like your schedule.
Yeah.
He was like, I can't be away from my family this long. So he was away from his family in Argentina. And so I think the Mexican international job affords him that private jet flight back to see his family more often.
Sure.
So I think that
the internationals, they really don't play very often.
No, they don't. So so sadly, I think that's the X factor of why Tata is not coming back.
I feel bad. I feel like we're letting down the podcast listeners because I really don't have the expertise of all the coaches down there, and I don't even know where to do a deep dive. I feel like we should be helping them, but at some level, does it really matter anyway, right? Because we might come up with the best coach, but Atlanta United is not listening to us. But to me, for example, if we go back to France. right?
Yeah.
And we were talking about it last week, right? How nobody was just clamoring to get the coach that Paris Saint-Germain got is beyond me, because his record with every team has been super successful. Hello.
Yeah.
Well, I think Elliot has my positive outlook on life. He says, give Pineda one more season. No, we're not.
No.
Well, if he goes, he also says Pochettino.
Because he's had enough of a runway here. He's been here about a year, which means he's going to have a year and a quarter, right, by the time it wraps up. Mm-hmm. And he's making such fundamental bad decisions.
Yeah. You have to judge.
It's hard to bet on him.
You have to judge, and you say, look, people will say, like, oh, Sir Alex Ferguson lost for 3 years in a row before winning, and all these famous coaches did that. But you got to understand that those coaches took over a club that was in complete disarray with a squad that was not so good, right? They didn't come into a club that has the most expensive roster in the league, and I think a decently composed roster. Sometimes just most expensive doesn't equal good, but I think there is talent and composure. Whether or not that is complete talent to win MLS or not, you can argue whatever. I think it is. I think there is enough talent to win MLS with this team, but it's certainly not talent to be flirting with last place.
Yeah. So there's a lot of social chatter out there on turning the whole thing upside down. We got to get rid of all the players other than like 3 players, and it's like, Dave, talk some common sense into some people. Like, this roster is not that bad.
Well, it's interesting, because there's a tendency to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? In that you see it's bad, it's gone bad, and then you're just like, the players have to be bad. They can't have the right attitude or whatever. And that's quite often true when you see a team performing this badly. Yeah. But every once in a while, you see a coach who is literally maximizing awful, right? And all you do is you have a new coach comes in, and you've seen it in sports. There are moments a new coach comes in, and boom, the team goes from like last place to winning the title in a year. Yeah. And I think, and how do you know when it's that versus something else? But if you look at our team, right, you've got players who can just beat players like cones, right? I mean, Araujo has not been effective the whole year, and you can say that whatever, but he goes around players like cones. Yeah. A good coach can use that, right? Almada is an absolutely brilliant. He makes great decisions. As the season's gone on, he's had less and less good decisions to make because, the team is just falling apart. People aren't making the runs anymore because it's all, terrible and whatever.
And you got this weird anomaly of Moreno, who clearly is a very skilled footballer.
Yeah.
And so when you look at that, and as a coach, he doesn't know how to use his chess pieces. He does not.
Right. Has no idea. He has no idea what to do with this team.
So, Dave, well, again, I'm going to just rewind. What would you do if you're starting against Portland?
Yeah.
You have the starting lineup.
Easy peasy.
You have the starting roster.
Yep.
Who are you starting against Portland? Let's go through the 11.
Gutman at left back.
Let's go from goalie.
Oh, goalkeeper Coutinho.
Oh, really? Oh. Why is that?
Because he is 6 inches taller than Rios Novo.
We got that out of the way. Move on.
And even if he's like a statue, terrible, whatever, you still get There's no way that you played for Club America. He played in the Champions League, this guy, in Europe. And he's played for a Mexican international star. There's no way he's like a stiff ogre, whatever. He may be not as great as we think he is, but he's still better than Rios Novo.
Unless there's some sort of George Best story back there where he's getting shitbagged at the bar.
Maybe.
Like,
that would make sense to me.
Like, that would make sense, right? But, like, can we talk about it if that's the case?
Yeah, if that's the case, send him to rehab. And then if if you're Pineda and you know something like that, then you can't. You're like, I can't keep getting blamed for this. This guy needs to go to rehab or whatever. Right. You gotta do something.
At least we're making up good rumors. All right, on from the goalkeeper.
All right, Gutman, who I think to me is shown nothing but excellence. His defending is excellent. His positioning, he reads the danger, he gets forward. And if he were given an opportunity to actually read the game and go forward when it's on and don't go forward when it's not on, he'd be brilliant. Mm-hmm. Okay. Obviously, in the center back, I would play Franco and Parata. Right? Do I think that either of them are absolutely superior? No. There is a reason that when we give up all these crazy things, they're not bailing us out enough, right? So I don't think they're great. But they are certainly serviceable, and if they're really protected, I think they could be great. We could have a great defensive team.
So who's going to protect them?
So the two players who are protecting them would be Sosa and Ibarra.
Okay.
Right, I would have Sosa as a true defensive midfielder. Your job is to sit in and break up everything. You're on the most dangerous player. You are, the guy who's, organizing and starting the recycling. And the first guy you get to organize with is Ibarra. I'm on the most dangerous guy, and you get to point to Ibarra, who works his rear off, right, as the second guy. And if you have that, and they are dedicated to defending, right, then anytime we lose the ball and they start to play out, first of all, we don't have the madness of somebody wide open because our two outside backs are not going to be going up the field like they were, right? At most, we will ever have one of our four defenders going forward. Okay. And I would give the license to any one of them to go forward, to be attacking. They win the ball, play it, and step forward into the midfield, keep going. But there will always be three back. There will always be Sosa sitting in front of them. And there will be Ibarra, who's truly in the center of the field. So Sosa's on the most dangerous guy. He's pointing to Ibarra. We got three guys back.
So you're essentially saying there's always five guys back then.
Yes, there's five guys back all the time.
Because if one winger wants to bomb up, go ahead, but you got the five that are
five guys back all the time, and occasionally six.
Right. But don't ever press both fullbacks up, because then you're at best leaving four in the back, but probably less than that.
So if Gutman is down the left side and going forward and bombing forward, which he can do if he's played the ball and he's going forward, then Lennon or Hernandez would be all the way back. And they could sneak up with the play, maybe even get towards the outside of the penalty area. But depending on who's there, if there's a guy back there, you get on him and mark him, because you're a defender, like he doubts.
I don't think they're getting that directive.
No, they're not getting that at all. Nobody's ever said to bother to tell them they're a defender, right? So I would, to be honest with you, I think I would probably play Hernandez, because his natural instinct is to stay back rather than Lennon bombing forward.
I was about to ask you that. As much as I love Brooks Lennon, who do you play as a right back?
I would say Hernandez.
Right. Because he's defensive. And it's not because I don't dislike Brooks Lennon.
Correct.
He's just not set up for this team.
Well, and Brooks Lennon could also be an outside midfielder at times and can give you some goals. And late in the game, if you're down a goal, right, and you're bringing on the extra forward in Dom Dwyer, right, or Cisneros, a tall guy, then you could replace Hernandez with Lennon, and now you have a guy crossing to two guys in the box who are big, who are sitting there. And if they're sitting back in siege mentality, then Lennon can be a weapon because he can serve a nice ball.
So with Gutman being your guy who's got football brains and can attack forward, at least shows some capability of like having some finishing quality. What about Mascara, this new guy?
Mascara is an absolute change of pace off the bench. The guy who I'm going to bring on often in the 70th minute, and the defenders are like, oh my God, we have been watching you guys interchange all the time.
They've been getting beaten up by Gutman the whole time.
And we are going to keep them shoved in their own end, because when we have our five guys back, they are not going to get past half field very often, right? We are going to recycle balls, right? Okay, so we keep going?
Yeah, keep going.
So Almada in a free role in the midfield, right? Your job is to find the pockets of space right and left in the center of the
he's
midfield.
acting as a 10, really.
A true 10. You get on the ball and you create. Right? I mean, let him run the show. Yeah. Your job, not defensively. He can come back sometimes in double team. You've got Sosa marking a guy. You got Ibarra marking the second guy. He can come back and be that pesky guy who double teams and stuff like that. But that's his defensive role.
Yeah, shakes it up, gets back to Sosa, then it gets released, and then Almada.
The few times when they get up the field and we're trying to get out of our back, I want Almada open every single time. I do not want you ever coming back to our 18-yard box tracking somebody unless, emergency, everybody's out forward. But basically, you should be open every time the ball turns over. We want you available, and we want you on the ball and hit the gas. Because once Almada gets on the ball, I got two wingers who can really fly and who can go by players one-on-one. I got Araujo on the left, and I got Moreno on the right. Both of those guys, one-on-one on those outside spots, nobody can handle them. Frightening. Both of them can serve a ball. Both of them can get in and combine at the back post and score goals, right, through the middle. So if we play out wide to Araujo, Moreno's not going to be out all the way out wide. He's going to be making that diagonal run and trying to combine in the middle. Right? And he's not going to be running into the other guys in the middle because Ibarra and Sosa are sitting.
Who are you starting up front?
Martinez.
Okay.
Because we're going to play through the middle all the time. We're going to recycle the ball all the time. We're going to play, lots of little balls in the middle, and we're going to get him, an opportunity to take one touch and shoot and show his finishing ability.
If we were to start that starting lineup, five games, right?
Yeah.
What you just described,
right?
I think we would win at least 4 of those games,
right?
And I'm not being, and I guarantee you, there's some listeners out there just disagreeing adamantly with what we're saying, but you're wrong.
And then you have players off the bench who can change the game.
Yeah.
So you have Mascaro, who's got pacey. He's left-footed.
You got Lennon who can come on.
You got Lennon who can cross. And you can in a siege mentality game, a team that gets a fluke goal and is up 1, and they're packing in back at home in the Mercedes-Benz. You can bring on Lennon at right back, and you can bring on Dom Dwyer, and you can bring on Cisneros.
Yeah.
Right. And at that game, when they're packed all in the back and there's no more room for ticky-tacky in the middle and you're having to serve balls in late in the last 15 minutes, you can bring off Joseph.
What happened to Josetu and Hyman?
So Josetu is the guy who spells Almada, right?
Yeah.
So, we're going to score 3-4 goals a game, and I'm going to get Almada off the field a lot of times to help him. There are even times when I'm going to rotate and maybe rest Almada and give him a random start, particularly at home, and that's okay because he can play.
Yeah.
Right, and as long as you're not going to give up the cheap goal that we're giving up, right? Then even though if you lose Almada, maybe you can't really score the 3 or 4 goals, but there will be times as long as you're not giving up the cheap goal, you're giving up 0 or 1 at home, you score 2 at home, it's done.
Yeah. And as far as one of the reasons we need to wrap this up, but and Amar Sedic, the fact that he's starting and getting minutes, to me is one of the biggest reasons Pineda needs to be out.
Yeah.
It really makes my blood boil. He is just such a average Joe that I can't get my head around it. It just shows that Pineda's logic on ignoring talent for the sake of whatever.
Well, offensively, he's not nearly as good as Almada or Josetu. Defensively, he's not nearly as good as Ibarra. If you're late in the game and you're trying to kill a game, you need possession, you can bring on Hyman, who's going to make a good pass. Sadic has shown he can blow a game late in the game by being terrible defensively. The other one you haven't mentioned who can also come on and change a game, Wiley.
Yeah.
Right? Ooh. Wiley looks to me like a real talent.
He is. You forget how young this kid is.
Super young.
I will not crack on that kid at all. Like, I mean, he's got a lot of potential.
Yeah. So there will be a time, depending on who we're matching up against, you could either start him and occasionally have Araujo either off the bench or Araujo as a false 9, not play Martinez. Yeah. I'm okay with that occasionally, right? You can rotate through that. And Wiley can come on for Araujo if it's not Mascaro, right? Or maybe both.
And didn't you think, like, I mean, I think somebody mentioned this in the comments, like Wiley getting this experience right now, sometimes being in the doldrums like this as a young player, you know, it's going to pay off for him when things start clicking and players around you start elevating you instead of like the whole system bringing you down. He's playing against the current right now, which is got to be
honest with you, I think that Wiley, even defensively, has looked pretty good. Yeah. It's just the times when we've been catastrophic out wide on the left is when he's been asked to go into the wrong position and he's not even in the right spot, right? So, you know, that to me is much bigger problem. You know, nobody's really dribbled by him that much. Now, McFadden, on the other hand, there were people dribbling by him quite consistently. So I
know you're not a fan of McFadden.
To me, it's not that I'm not a fan of McFadden, but McFadden cannot be a right back. He is not a right back. If he's going to do anything, he has to be an attacking role.
Yeah.
Like he's got to be a midfielder.
All right. So Dave, we've talked about it all. What are you expecting at Portland? What do you want from the rest of the season? Like, let's use the last 2 minutes here to talk about like as a fan, what do you want?
Well, ironically, you know, how do you get on the front foot in Portland, right? You know, you might say there's a tendency in Pineda I could see being like, we want to be on the front foot, so we're going to play, and he's done this once, right? He's going to play all 4 Mama, and he's going to play Cisneros and really try to bomb and whatever. To be honest, that's not getting it. The way you get on the front foot is to have the back 4, the back 6 stay at home and control the middle.
I know.
That's how you get on the front foot. He doesn't understand that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In the modern game of football, that is how you win games, is by controlling it. And then you also have to have players who can take advantage of it. If you win the ball up the field and you give the ball to a guy and he can't take advantage of a one-on-one, you're lost. And so many coaches don't have that. You know, if you're most MLS coaches, you're like, I can do all the organization I want. We win the ball up the field. We get it to player X, and he still can't take advantage of it.
So, listeners, if you can imagine a back 4 that's disciplined to stay back.
Yeah.
You have Sosa, who's sitting right in front of them reading the game. Yeah. And you have a pesky Ibarra, who's a young kid who he's gritty and he'll make some mistakes. Sure, he'll get a yellow card here and there. Let him go out there and try to press it. And
there would be times at home where you might replace Ibarra with Josetu and have a really more aggressive offensive at home where they're going to bunker in on you. That would happen once you're dominating the league and people come in and just park the bus on you.
And so in that scenario, can you imagine the ball accidentally getting kicked up to Moreno, Araujo, Almada, Martinez consistently? It's been this. I mean, this is the conversation we've had since week 3 of this podcast.
Yeah.
And that's all I have to say.
That's it.
Forrest.
That's it.
I appreciate everybody tuning in on the YouTube.
Yeah, thanks for hanging with us. We're hanging in there.
We're going to hang in there. I think, we are, I know we can be a little negative sometimes on this podcast, but I think it's more being realist and actually trying to break down what's really happening.
Yep.
I think that's where we're coming from. I think our heart is with Carmen, and we want this team to win in Portland.
Carmen still thinks we can win.
I'm telling you.
Wouldn't that be amazing? But the problem of the pessimism is where the big flaw is, and I think it's the guy who's running the show, and it's Pineda. And unfortunately, we've got to make a change. I don't know if Carlos is going to be able to make that move or not, but let's see, Dave.
Yeah.
Next, this weekend is going to be the crux of whether we're looking forward or
Portland's not good. They could be beaten at home. They're way down the table, but this team on the road can't win. We just can't win. And the reason why you cannot win those games, period, is you cannot get any wins on the road when you're giving up cheap goals at home. Now, maybe we don't give up. Maybe, one thing that could have been happening that we might not know with the 5 in the back, which I think is way better considering his crazy bomb up the side thing, right? Maybe the defense has gotten better and we're still giving up goals because Rios Novo is just terrible. And so you switch to goalkeeper, you play 5 in the back, you don't give up that cheap goal, and now you finally hang in there for a while. You might just have the opportunity for those guys to go win it. Now, that's not going to help you long term because unless you can win the ball up the field, this team's never going to win. But you might pull off an upset.
All right, I'm exhausted.
I'm actually going to say that if he changes the goalkeeper, that we get some type of result, probably a tie on the road. It's not going to help us.
I mean,
but it's better than losing.
That is true.
But literally, like, if he doesn't change the goalkeeper into the next game, like, I mean,
well,
I mean, he's already made his bed.
But who says he's going to change the goalkeeper? Because if he was going to change the goalkeeper, there was evidence in the last 3 weeks that you should have changed the goalkeeper. And there was evidence from the very beginning because you can't play a 5'9" goalkeeper in the MLS.
That's evidence of why Pineda is so weak.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's not good. He's so weak. So if he's stuck to his guns, he's the guy. He's at practice.
Yeah.
Rogo's my guy. Then why change it?
Yeah, why would he change it now?
Why would he change if that's what he's got in his head?
I agree.
Just because I'm saying it on social media?
Yeah.
Is that what he's going to
do? Well, I think eventually he's going to bend to the pressure. He's seeing it all over, and he's going to be like, and if you're a really good coach and you really know the difference, you would never do that.
You would never do that.
Yeah, I don't listen to the fans.
So this is going to be the evidence. He's going to start Godinho for the first time against Portland.
Yeah, but he'll make two other changes.
Which is two other changes, and it's going to be evidence of why, sorry, Elliot, this is not our guy.
It's not our guy. And I don't think as much as I don't like Alexi Lalas, right? He was like, one thing about Atlanta is big and bold, and we're going to spend the most money in the league, and we're not going to have down years, and we're expecting to win all the time, right? That's the way we set ourselves up. And he's like, I loved it. They came in, they won the league in year 2, right? But what's happened to that team since? Like what's going on with Atlanta United? And I think they did not do a good job with the turnover after we won the title. We couldn't keep the whole team because it was too expensive. There was salary cap, all kinds of problems. Almiron was gone. We did not do a good job turning it over. That next year after the championship, the players they brought in, they were a bunch of, the Shays of the world, Breck Shays of the world, were terrible. But they recovered from that. Right? And they actually have put together an absolutely brilliant squad, in my opinion.
Yeah. Everybody online disagrees with you, but I agree with you, Dave. So,
all right. It's us against the world, Mikey Dobbs.
Thanks for listening.
ATL on fire.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back in a week or two.
Take care.
Cheers.
Bye, guys.
Killing the stream so they can't hear us talk.